I am here with Jane Sutherland, and I will be asking a few questions. First of all, let's start off with how is it, Jane, that you know about what is happening on our Texas-Mexican border?
Well, in the first place, I spend the winter in Texas, down in Mission, which is where a lot of these people are crossing. But in 1967, my husband and I went to Belize for 2 months while he did an exchange ministry. And then we liked it so much that we went back and did various kinds of ministry down there every year for our vacation until retirement time. And then we were in Belize for 11 years, from 1989 until 2000. And we did get into the other countries, the countries from which these immigrants are coming. We were in Honduras and absolutely horrified at the situation we saw there. And we were in El Salvador and lived right next door to Guatemala, and we're in and out of Guatemala a great deal.
Very good. Who are these immigrants?
Well, most of them are from Honduras. That is the poorest country in Central America. And many of them are also from El Salvador and Guatemala. They're children all by themselves. There are mothers with children. Of course, there are drug smugglers. They're still coming through. And there are a few men coming looking for jobs.
We never saw this before. Why now?
Well, Mexico's the reason. Mexico is bordered on Guatemala, and all of these people would need to come through Guatemala to get here. And they kept their army along the Guatemalan border so that and they didn't want those immigrants in Mexico. These poor people with third-grade educations and no money at all, they didn't want them. And so they kept their army and did their drilling and everything right along the border, and that kept them out. But Mexico has changed things. They've been smuggling drugs in here for a long time. But now the drug cartels decided that it would be good if that Mexican army got pulled back, and they persuaded the government to do it. And so the people are coming through now.
But why would they want to leave their own country?
Well, you'd have to see the poverty particularly in Honduras to understand this. I've been in a home that was probably 10 by 15 feet with a dirt floor and a family of 6 or 8 people living in that little space. They're 2 meals a day, primarily rice, and they know there are places in the world where the things are much, much better. Well, then you have the problems also of all of the drug smugglers and the cartels in operation in these countries. As I say, Honduras is the worst. Guatemala and El Salvador, the conditions are not a great deal better, but there is some industry in those countries. In Honduras, there is no industry at all except, well, the Dole Pineapple Company is growing pineapple there. There's a little employment there, but they keep everybody else out of there. It's an enclosed corporation, and there's very, very little manufacturing of any kind done in Honduras. So they're very much attracted to a safe environment. That's really what it amounts to. They are truly refugees. They're not immigrants. They really are refugees. We pulled our Peace Corps people out of Honduras 2 years ago. We have cut down in the embassy. All unnecessary people have come back to the U.S. And we advise no one to go into Honduras.
Oh. What happens when unaccompanied children and women with children cross into the U.S.?
Well, now, of course, we have the drug smugglers are still coming. In fact, this is covering them up and they're getting through, and we're getting a lot more drugs as a result of this than we had before. We also have the occasional man that wants to come in to get a job. But we are getting a lot of unaccompanied children. And by that, I mean the youngest that we have taken in, as far as I know, is 7. And that ranges up to 21. Anyone under 21 is considered a child. Now, when they get taken in, we have no idea what their background is. Are the older girls prostitutes? We don't know. Are the boys, have they been in gangs? Have they shot someone? Are they in here in order to form gangs here in the United States? We don't know. So the only thing that they can do is to pick up these unaccompanied children and take them to a safe place. Now, there are vacant prisons. They've taken them there. They have taken them to several convents that are no longer in use, and they are under time restrictions. And they are not allowed out of these places. They're held like prisoners. And then eventually, because they are not from Mexico, we can't send them straight back. The only people we can send straight back at that Mexican border are Mexicans, just as the same thing at the Canadian border would be Canadians. So, with these children have to go before a judge here in the United States, and then he decides on their situation as to whether they can go back, whether they are going to be deported, and we don't know what we're going to do with them. But some of these kids, if you deport them, you know it's a death sentence.
Where are women and children cared for?
Now, we've got mothers that are bringing their children over. That's the second large group that are coming. And by the way, when they cross that Rio Grande River, their idea is that they're going to walk up through our ranch lands. Now, there is no water, there is no food. Right now, the temperature in those ranch lands is running up around 110, and they're not going to live but a few hours. So there's not a lot of the mothers with children coming across right now. As soon as it cools down some, they'll start in again. We're very much convinced. But when they get over here, what are we going to do with these women? Well, the Border Patrol tries to sort them out, and their idea is if they have any relatives or even a friend here in the United States that will take them in, they'll go there temporarily until they can go into court with a judge. So they come across, they've got to have the paperwork made out. After the paperwork is made out, and that's going to take a couple of days, then they can make a telephone call, one telephone call, to whomever it is here in the United States. And most of them were headed for this person. If that person will take them in, they're going to be put on a bus and sent to that particular destination. But when they come across, many of them have had nothing to eat for several days. They're thirsty, they're dirty, they're exhausted, and if there's a baby along, that baby might be in diapers that haven't been changed in several days. You can't put people like that on a bus. No bus driver would let them on. So you've got to clean them up if nothing else. And the Border Patrol has no place to do it. So what has happened is that the Catholic Charities have taken over a playfield at a church, a Catholic church in McAllen, which is right next to Mission. And they have put up tents to house them in, put in cots, and everybody in South Texas has brought in blankets and things like that. They brought in clothes and so forth to give these people a place to at least get a decent night's sleep. But they're dirty. Some of them even have lice. And how are you going to clean them up? Well, the Baptist churches down there have clubbed together, and they have rented portable showers. Now, of course, there are porta potties in there for them, and they can get cleaned up. Well, are you going to send diseased children in among our own children? No. The doctors down there are taking turns looking these children over. Nurses have volunteered their times. Many of our nurses work a shift in their hospital, and then they come and volunteer a shift at the tent to check over these children. Now, they need toilet articles. All right. The Episcopal churches have gotten together, and they're putting together kits of toilet articles. Some things that these people probably never have had before, even toothbrushes and toothpaste, for example, and some things like that. And then about clothes. Many of these children come in barefoot. Who's going to let a barefoot child on a bus? You've got to get shoes on them. And the Episcopal churches are clubbing together to try to put proper clothing and shoes on these children. And the shoes are expensive. We've had a lot of volunteer clothing, but shoes have been a little more difficult because these children have awfully small feet, and so have the mothers. So for many of these children, it's the first time in their lives they've ever had a new pair of shoes. So that is how we're taking care of these people, and it's the churches down there that are doing it, and it's become a very expensive sort of thing.
Oh, that's good. And how are the churches financially financing this help?
Well, it started out, I can tell about St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Mission by them taking $1,000 out of their missionary fund, which they put together each year. So that depleted the missionary fund. And then individuals have given money, and they have gone to the stores and gotten discounts on shoes and things of that nature that they're buying. Walmart has given them good prices on toilet articles and so forth. And it has come from individual donations. And we're looking for more of those. So I'll tell you about what's happening locally. St. Peter's Episcopal Church can possibly send us a donation. It can be sent to St. Peter's Episcopal Church at 12 Elm Street, Westfield, New York, 14787. And please mark your check. Make it out to St. Peter's, but then for the purpose of the check, it is for refugees.
Yes.
Yeah. And that will be sent immediately down to Texas for the use of the churches down there in buying particularly shoes. That's been the most expensive item.
Right. Jane, I'd like to thank you for the ongoing effort that you're trying to bring exposure to. It's going to be ongoing need, and regardless of any political viewpoint, there is a need, and there's a purpose, and people are in need, and we hope that it touches people's heart, and that they will give generously. And again, we thank you for giving so much and of your time and effort to reach out to people on so far away. And thanks for this time that you spent here to speak to us.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. And I think we need also to remember here that The people that are really profiting from this are the drug cartels.
Yes. Thanks again, Jane.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Okay.